Here we go. It's time for the RotoWire Rundown. I'm Keith Stewart from Read the Line. Of course, I'm joined by award-winning fantasy article writer, senior golf editor there at RotoWire. That's, of course, Len Hochberg. Len, pleasure to see you. I am out here in LA where you call home. So it's 8:15 our time, and I'm so happy to see the sun. Now, one thing I am happy to get away from is that Waste Management Phoenix Open. Not only was the weather terrible, I'm not sure it was safe there on Saturday. Now, being on site and inside the ropes is kind of a crazy setting. Like you feel like you're in the middle of the maelstrom. But I always wonder, like, what does that look like on TV? I saw what it looked like on social media, but that's really not 100% usually representative of everything that's going on. What was it like when you were watching the event this past weekend on television?
Yeah, I am clouded because I am watching on television along with following on social media, and I sort of know what's going on there in general. So I don't think the full extent of the debauchery comes across on television. Much like at the Super Bowl on Sunday, we heard there was a streaker. They don't show it. If there's any action in the stands, they're not going to show that. We might hear that. So yes, I mean, we could hear how loud it is, and they're showing, people without shirts and stuff like that. So we know there's a lot going on, but I don't think you get the full extent of it. NBC is not going to show us all the lowest of the low there. But I can only imagine what it's like there just from the sheer number of people, not to mention the alcohol.
Well, it was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever been to an event that had so many people at it. They don't really, the Thunderbirds don't release the numbers anymore. At one point, it was 250,000 people that would show up on Saturday that they would let in. But we all know the problems they had with the gates and everything this past Saturday. And they estimated maybe 400,000 people were inside. I mean, there's no doubt they lost control. But in some ways, I'm not sure that they're the only ones that didn't lose control. I have concerns when it comes to the number one player in the world. I mean, he was going for a three-peat this weekend, and I want to get your opinion on this before we get into LA and we get into the Genesis Invitational. Scotty grabbed the lead. He's the number one player in the world. Scotty grabbed the lead on Sunday in that final round on the front nine, and then by the middle of the back nine, he let it go. What's your impression of Scotty Scheffler right now? I mean, between the putting issues and, his elite ball striking and how all this is coming together. I know it isn't somebody we're going to bet at 5-1, but I'm curious what your perspective is on the number one player in the world right now.
Yeah, I'm fascinated because we have the number one player in the world who is coming up on a full calendar year, a full year anyway, 12 months since he last won the Players Championship, which just a few weeks away now, next month in March. If you want to include the Hero, knock yourself out. I'm not going to include the Hero World Challenge. So just the fact that the number one player in the world is not winning any tournaments is mind-boggling. But it also speaks to Scheffler how good he is everywhere else but the green, that he can just rack up top five after top five after top 10. And, I'm actually surprised, though, that once he had the lead, that he lost it. That was I don't know if that's happened much in the past year. He's always been circling the lead, but I don't know how many times he's had the lead and lost it. So that's pretty troubling.
Len, I tell you, I couldn't believe the body language. I was walking with his group, and he three putts for par on 13 when he's got an eagle putt from 20-something feet. The next hole, he doesn't get up and down, misses a short putt. The next hole, the par 5, he doesn't capitalize. I mean, could you ever remember a time, and his name's going to come up today, but could you ever remember a time that Tiger Woods wasn't a trained killer, that when he took the lead, he ever let it go? I mean, it's very interesting to me. And of course, we end up with our sixth straight, 100-1 or greater long shot to win. Nick Taylor started the week somewhere between 150 and 175-1. I mean, it's crazy what's going on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. And I don't know. I said last week that I expected it to end last week, but I really expect it to end this week with the small field and all the top guys there. except Matthew Pavon, wherever he might be this week. But yeah, it's crazy. It's it's not good for the tour. You want your stars there on Sunday. We don't need Charlie Hoffman, or Jay Monahan doesn't need Charlie Hoffman and Nick Taylor dueling it out while the Super Bowl is going on. Not the best situation. And I do think it will be better this week, weather-wise and every which way.
All right, well, let's head west from Scottsdale out to LA. So from the desert to Hollywood, right? From one number one player in the world to the number one player for a very long time. Tiger Woods is showing up this week, not only as the host, but as a competitor at the Genesis Invitational. Can we have any expectations at this point on Tiger? If he plays once a month or so, is this something that he can actually do? Or what do you feel like Tiger's going to do this week at Riviera?
Yeah, well, first of all, Tiger showing up this week after the last 2 weeks on the PGA Tour pretty much went off the rails. Could not have been better timing for the tour, for Jay Monahan, for whoever has a vested interest in this. And it's just like your white knight coming in at the last minute to save the day. So that is great for the tour. And just from, anytime Tiger shows up, it's great for all of us. When we last saw him at the Hero, he was playing pretty well. And it's always been a case the last few years, it's been a case of more can he walk than can he play golf. And it looked like he says he's walking better after that latest ankle surgery last spring. He says he's better than he's been. So I don't know, maybe I'm going to fall into the trap again, but I think he can play pretty well this week. I was out there last year and saw him play, especially that first round. I think he shot 69, 269. He looked pretty darn good for someone who hadn't played in a while. So I think he can do it. 6 tournaments is once a month, the Players next month, then the 4 majors. That might be a little bit aggressive. He always seems to break down at some point. But for this week, and Riviera is not a terribly hard walk other than maybe 18. It's pretty flat otherwise. I think he can, make the cut. Everyone's going to make the cut this week. I think he can do border top 25.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there about the cut. So we have a field of about 71 guys that are going out, and Tiger wanted a cut, and the signature events weren't going to have one. So they said the top 50 in ties plus anyone within 10 shots of the lead, which could be everybody, or it could, those final 20 guys could get cut or so if, we get a rabbit that goes out there and shoots maybe 15 under for the first 2 days and a couple guys don't play very well. It's kind of interesting how that cut came together. But as far as I'm concerned, you mentioned it, having Tiger back in the field. I mean, in my world, FanDuel alone has like 20 something plus prop bets just on Tiger, right? Tiger will be the most popular bet to make or miss the cut. And it's absolutely phenomenal what it does to the energy of the event being here on site when, the last 2 weeks, yes, the weather was a little bit of a distraction, but we had some stars there. We've had Scotty the last 2 weeks, guys like Max Homa, Jordan Spieth, we had a signature event at Pebble. And I mean, I tell you, it's electric on a Monday and a Tuesday when you get to the clubhouse and Tiger Woods is going to be on the property. It's pretty fantastic. I mean, I think I'm cautiously optimistic because I think he's the most healthy he's been since February 23rd of 2021 when he had that fateful accident. So can he beat half the field? Would you take him for top 30, Len?
Yeah, I depending on the number and all that, but if you're just asking me in a vacuum, can he finish in the top 30? I think he can. I think he was headed there last year. He had a bad final round.
Yeah, the number there is like roughly 2-1. So, I mean, it's a lot better than having to make the cut, which, against the field of 70 to get in the top 50 certainly favors everyone to make the cut. But what's interesting about Riviera, though, when it comes to Tiger, he's played here 8 times as a professional. And, I mean, he hasn't finished top 10 here since 2004. What is it about this golf? I mean, Tiger should play good everywhere, right? What is it about this golf course that you're featuring this week for all of your DFS value picks and for your stars, right? That's special about Riviera that maybe Tiger may have struggled with over the years?
Yeah, quite frankly, it makes no sense because if you would describe what it takes to win at Riviera, which can be a brutally hard golf course, a single-digit winner on occasion, depending on the conditions, and you know what Tiger Woods is and can do, you would just think that he would be there every year. I just, at this point, I think it's just coincidence, happenstance, circumstance, all kinds of stances and things like that. It just makes no sense that he doesn't do well here because it really requires you to use every club in your bag and just have a complete all-around game. And that's just the definition of Tiger Woods. So I don't have a good answer to your question other than it makes no sense and it just defies all logic.
Well, I mean, to support or validate your feeling there that it makes no sense, 28 of the last 31 winners here have finished tied 22nd or better at the Masters. Augusta National Golf Club is a huge comp course for this. I mean, in fact, year after year, going to Riviera on the PGA Tour, it's probably the best golf course that they play that's not a major championship venue. And it's just it's unfathomable that he hasn't played better here, considering the number of times he has teed it up here. I mean, the fairway, you're like, what do you need to do here specifically? Well, they have 37 acres of fairway. That's pretty tight. The fairways bend a lot. 12 of the 14 driving holes have dog legs. The greens are on the larger side, but they sit at weird angles and they're very difficult to hit. They're top 5 of the toughest to hit on tour. So strokes game approach, especially from in that 175 plus range and even over 200, right? We're back on Poa annua grass, which tends to be very bumpy. Now, these are somewhat smoother than Pebble or Torrey because we're not on the coast, but it still seems to drive these guys nuts. And if you're not hitting a ton of greens in regulation, you've got to be good around the green. So that's why I think that the guys that play well here, Bubba 3 wins in the last 10 years. You've got Phil's one here, Adam Scott, all green jacket winners. Last year's defending champ, the name the tour won't mention, John Rahm, because he's gone, right? John Rahm won the Masters last year and he won here. So if you're building out a betting card or a DFS lineup, there's nothing wrong with looking for a little history, that maybe doesn't include Tiger Woods, but definitely includes Augusta National. Now, speaking of which, we start to mention or I allude to some names there. Let me walk you through the ladder of DFS play, and let's start with the 10K range. I mean, we got some heavy hitters there. Are all of them playing well, and who are you grabbing at the top of the board?
Yeah, and the top 3 on the board, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele. The thing that jumped out at me when looking at the 3 of them collectively, none of them has ever had a podium finish, a top 3 here at this tournament. Rory had a 4th about 5 or 6 years ago. So, and they played it at least 5 times. It's one of the things to key on this week. It's a very hard golf course to come in and do well your first time, certainly to win your first time. But they've had a lot of experience, the course knowledge. You talked about the trickiness and the angles and things like that. So playing here a lot certainly helps you get better. But they really haven't, and they're too pricey for me. So I'm going to avoid Scheffler. Another thing that's really important here is putting inside of 10 feet. You talk about the POA, traditionally very low success rate, maybe about 50% inside 10 feet. Scotty Scheffler is not going to be on my card this week. So I'm going to go all the way down to the low 10s to Victor Hovland. Now, Victor Hovland's never had a podium finish either, but he finished 4th and 5th in his first 2 visits here. And that was before he knew how to use his wedge. And now he's a lot more experienced with the course, with his short game. He would be my first guy, the top guy that I play. And then a couple of other guys, Homa and Morikawa, former champion here, former runner-up here. These guys have played this course a number of times, California guys, and they've succeeded here.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring up Homa. I was going to bring him up when we get to the 9Ks when we're here. The last 2 weeks, he hasn't been great. In fact, he missed the cut in the desert, but his history here is tremendous. So you would take Homa this week?
I would. And, the last 2 weeks have been such odd circumstances and quirky. And granted, if you're a professional golfer, if you're a professional athlete, you've got to be prepared to play and compete in all kinds of situations. That said, if he didn't, okay, we can maybe excuse it by the weather and the starting and the stopping and all of that. But he's played well here a bunch. I think I wouldn't I would completely dismiss what happened the last 2 weeks and turn to Homa this week.
Well, in your world and in my world, there's a ton of names that are popping in that 8K range. I don't know where to start. Come on, give me a couple of hints in this 8,000s.
Well, these are guys in the lower nines, and I was really surprised to see them in the lower nines. I mean, I guess you have to. Everybody good is here, so somebody's got to be in the lower nines. But Patrick Cantlay at 93 and Justin Thomas at 91. They played well here before. Cantlay, another California guy. UCLA has played this course a ton through the years. I think those two might be between their skill set and their price might be the best bargains among the upper guys. So I do like them. And then Adam Scott, who we talked about, he's won here a couple of times, once sort of and once really. And and the Augusta connection. And he played well last week. Just a great ball striker and a better putter than we always think he is. The numbers are better. It just looks so shaky over the ball sometimes. But he's in the low eights. And I like him. And actually, he's my favorite play in the eights proper.
Oh, all right. Anybody else in the eights that catch your eye?
No, I can dip into the upper sevens, which are near the eights. But on my article, there's only one guy in the 8,000s. Justin Thomas is almost in the 8,000s, but only Adam Scott in the eights.
All right. So if we're going to skip down to the sevens, then Will Zalatoris sits down there. Great course history here. Can Will Zalatoris be trusted yet? And do you find value for him in the sevens?
I think he can be. We saw him play at Torrey Pines, and granted, the field not nearly the same as it is here, but it's another long, hard golf course with kikuyu grass, and at least some similarities there. And so he tied for 13th a few weeks back. So yes, he's still not able to putt very well, but it seems the rest of his game is pretty close to being where it was. And he's played well here before. I think he was fourth last year, 15th one other time. So I do like him at 79. And this may be an odd pick. Right below him at 78, JT Poston, coming off a missed cut last week. Looking at JT Poston's numbers this year, we just think of him as a putter extraordinaire. Well, his putting is very good, but not elite this year. He's really had a very balanced attack. He's doing well, pretty good to good in every strokes gained metric. And that's just what you're looking for here at Riviera. As I mentioned, every club in the bag will be important this week. So he's playing pretty well, and last week's miscut does not concern me with Poston either. And one other way down at 7,000, Harris English, another guy, just never flashy in any one area, but solid pretty much across the board.
Yeah, I like that Harris English pick. And, to see him in the low sevens reminds me of now we're looking at the sixes. And in these limited fields, there's some names that pop down there. Which one catches your eye the most that probably shouldn't be in the sixes based upon his recent play?
It's interesting about the sixes because we have only 70 guys, and you mentioned maybe everybody could make the cut. So a lot of 6,000. So don't fear, putting 2 or 3 expensive guys in your DFS lineup and then having to go into the sixes. They're going to play the weekend, and then you can catch lightning in a bottle. But I think the guy you might be talking about is Kurt Kitayama. He's at 69. He is, for me, he's a really tough guy to back because he has such great weeks and he has such bad weeks. He's really inconsistent. He won at Bay Hill a year ago. Not the exact comp, but tough field, tough course, long course. So he can do it in these conditions. Played well last week. He would be a good play at 69 in my estimation. And Emiliano Grillo, also just great ball striker. It's not his ball striking, actually a little bit off this year, but his putting, he's top 25 in strokes gained putting. So I do like him as well. And you know what? And then there's another guy way down at $6,500 who I think can find a place in your lineup. And his name is Tiger Woods.
Oh, Tiger making Len's 6K range. I love it. I love it. All right, a couple leans that I have on the betting front as far as outrights go. My first click of the week had to be Sam Burns. After watching him and his ball striking out in the desert, I'm impressed. I mean, he's got 3 straight top tens going from the Amex to the Pebble to WMPO. And now he rolls into a place where he's played 5 times. He's at a top 3 finish. He's at a top 25 finish. He's got the necessary experience here. And the thing that kind of put me over the edge with him, and he's sitting right in that like plus 2,500 range. So he's in that lower middle tier. If someone's going to break the streak of the 6 straight long shot winners, I want a guy that can score from close range. And Sam Burns is number 1 in the field in bogey avoidance. And what that tells me is he's making a lot of putts on inside 10 feet. Those places I just mentioned, 2 of them are POA places where the greens are bumpy and the guy has confidence with his flat stick. He's also good with his short game. And what's nice about Sam Burns right now is that last week he gained a ton on approach. His ball striking was really on point. Shot 64 on Sunday. So I love him as an outright play. And then the other one, it's been an odd year. You and we would admit that, right? So if the trend is to take people at Riviera that have experience or maybe to have high odds, I'm going to go with neither of those. And I'm going to take the kid. I'm going to take Ludwig Oberg, right? He's sitting right there at 20-1 plus 2,000. And of all the guys at the top, he seems to be the one that has a little bit of unfinished business from Pebble Beach. I mean, he was sitting there in the runner-up position with 1 round to go, and he wasn't given the opportunity. And what do you need to do there? I mean, at the risk of being redundant, you and I have said it. You got to be an elite driver. Check. You've got to be a great long iron and approach player. Check. You've got to be a good putter on POA. He was second at Pebble. Check. I mean, you just go right down the list. And if you run the numbers, and you've seen this, and I bet a lot of people and their models, he was way up there, but then they say, oh, you need to have played here 5 times before and Augusta and all these things. Well, if you've already bought a future on him at Augusta, why wouldn't you think that he's not going to play well here? I mean, I think legitimately with Tiger Woods on the property, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that Ludwig is a generational talent. But in order to build that resume, you need a signature win. And this is the type of place where, like I said, last week, Scotty Scheffler was not a killer. And I feel like this kid's a killer. He's won on both tours. He went to the Ryder Cup, hasn't even been in a major yet. So is there something special here? Does he have the it factor? We will certainly find out. But I think if anyone can buck the trend of experience there and be a debutante that has tremendous success at Riviera, I think he's definitely got the skill set to do it. And you know what, Len? Before I let you go, I got one quick question. I know you'll be out there this week. I know we'll get to be together. But for anyone that's in the area planning to go to Riviera to watch the tournament, where's your favorite place to watch from?
Gosh, I really try and get to as many holes as possible when I'm out there. It's just so much fun. Number 6, it's just a fun hole. You could see it's a par 3. It's the one with the bunker in the middle of the green. You could see the tee ball. You could see the ball land on the green. You could position yourself. And then if somebody happens to hit it on the wrong side of the bunker, and you can see they have to maybe chip it over the bunker or play the angle on the green and go up high and come on down, that's a fun place to do it. And of course, there's no better place than 18, maybe not until the weekend and Saturday, late Saturday and Sunday. But when you sit on that hill surrounding the small green and you see the guys come up the fairway at one of the great closing holes in all of golf with the clubhouse right behind you there. And it's a festive atmosphere, not like Phoenix at all. It's very reserved and all, but it's fun and it's light. And that is a great place to watch the end of the tournament. You can be really close to the golfers there.
Hey, folks, that's why he's the expert. Those are 2 great choices. I'm going to try to get to as many holes as I can throughout the course of the week. And let's hope that wet weather that may be coming on Sunday holds off long enough that we can get a dry week done on the PGA Tour. In any event, Len and I will be back next week to cover the PGA Tour again on the RotoWire Rundown. Thanks for joining us. Len, I'll see you out here.
They needed a dry week at Phoenix, a little too much alcohol. Yeah.